The mother returned late. Her paws moved fast, tail stiff, eyes locked on the den. But what she found stopped her cold. A massive snake coiled still, wrapped tightly around her cub. Not a hiss, not a strike, just silence. The jungle held its breath. There were no signs of struggle, no wounds, just the cub, curled calmly within those scaled rings. It should have been over. One squeeze, and the story ends. But it hadn't. The predator hadn't hunted. The victim hadn't cried. Something had paused the law of nature. Snakes are known for ambush, not hesitation. Their strength lies in surprise. Their kill is silent, swift, final, but this one remained unmoving, its body gently encircling the small lion like a question unanswered. The mother didn't attack immediately. She stood frozen, not from fear, but confusion. Why hadn't her cub been harmed? As minutes stretched, the truth dawned. The snake hadn't coiled to kill, but to rest. The jungle understood. It was a time for nursing, not hunting. For catching prey, there had to be movement. A burst of speed, sharp teeth, and quick strikes. But this was the time for stillness. A warm body lay near, offering a chance to recharge before the night grew colder. The mother didn't rush in though. No roar tore through the trees. No claws scraped the earth. She watched, waiting for her cub to stir. Maybe the snake would move, slither away, leaving the pride to peace. But as the sun filtered through thick leaves, casting long shadows across the earth, the reptile stayed put. The wind rustled gently, and with it came the faint scent of something familiar: blood. Yes, but not fresh. Somewhere nearby, the snake had already eaten. Its belly, now visible, was full, stretched heavy with a recent meal. It wasn't hungry again. It was resting, but then, why wrap around the cub? She couldn't let the snake stay there. Not while her cub was at risk. Not while her instinct screamed at her to act. But as she tensed, ready to spring, the snake stirred. Slowly, it uncoiled a bit. Not rushed, not threatened, just released. The sight made the mother pause. It was a young snake. She saw, sleek, strong, but not yet old. Its scales shone, emerald green, gold and brown patterns like autumn leaves. The snake slid out, revealing more, a splash of white on its chest, a star marking its back. It looked at the lioness, then turned to leave. And that's when the mother saw the answer, etched in the cub's fur. Her little one was fine, unharmed. He blinked back at her, confused, but safe. Stillness had saved them both. In the heart of the jungle, where danger lurks around each bend, the snake chose peace. And in that choice, it painted a lesson in courage. Now, the mother knew she couldn't keep her cub there. The pride needed him whole, his spirit untamed, his gaze unwavering. But as she nudged him toward her, the cub paused. He sniffed the air, then turned back to the snake. His small paws took a step, then another. He touched the serpent with his nose, and for a moment, understanding passed between them. The snake flicked its tongue, tasting the air, then vanished in the undergrowth. The cub didn't chase. He simply snuggled close to his mother, his purr rumbly like distant thunder. The snake had taught him a lesson in stillness, and he carried that wisdom in his purrs. Meanwhile, the mother scanned the area. No snake, no threat. She could lead her cub back to the pride. But as she turned, she noticed tracks in the soft earth, prints left by the snake. They told a story of a creature, not just surviving, but thriving. In that moment, she realized that the snake hadn't stumbled upon their den by chance. It had chosen it, drawn by a strength it recognized. Now, when the cub snuggled close, the mother felt a surge of gratitude for that stillness. In those quiet moments, her cub had learned a secret, one that echoed in the vast expanse of the jungle. Strength isn't always shown in speed or fierceness. Sometimes it's found in the calmest corners of the wildest hearts. As they walked, the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Crickets chirped, fireflies blinked, and the jungle breathed a sigh of relief. The snake had moved on, carrying with it a tale of courage and calm. And as the stars began to peek through the canopy, the lioness knew that this night was just beginning. As the years passed, the cub grew. His mane turned gold, his roar echoed through the trees, and his steps were sure. Yet, in his eyes, a calmness lingered, a stillness that belied his power. Whenever he heard the rustle of leaves or the slither of scales, he remembered the day the snake taught him about courage. Now, as the future stretched before him, he knew that true strength wasn't just about conquering. It was also about understanding. He carried that lesson in his stride, in his gaze, in his roar. They say snakes carry memory. That once full, they become vulnerable, seeking warmth and stillness. And sometimes, they find strange company. Maybe the cub's body heat mimicked the ground. Maybe its heartbeat soothed the serpent. Or maybe, for just a moment, instinct bent to something older, something neither predator nor prey could explain. But what happened that day didn't end there. When the news reached the watering hole, the elders gathered. They had seen much, but this story was a puzzle. Why hadn't the snake struck? Why had it left without a fight? And most puzzling of all, why had the cub survived? Old Tama, with eyes as deep as the jungle pools, spoke first. Snakes seek warmth after a full meal, she said, her voice raspy with age, seeking comfort before the hunt. But why the cub? Tola, the storyteller, chimed in. They say snakes have memories. Perhaps the little lion's scent brought back a past life, a time before the hunger drove them apart. The others shook their heads, puzzled. But Aquila, the leader, spoke up. We may never know the snake's thoughts, he rumbled, but we saw the outcome. The cub lived. The snake fled. It's a rare moment of truce in our jungle, a reminder that even predators sometimes choose peace. The silence that followed was heavy with thought. Finally, Kaya spoke, her voice soft but clear. Maybe it's not about memories or instincts. Maybe it's about balance. The snake hunted and ate, so it rested. The cub was warm, so it curled around him. It's not a truce, it's survival. Both species doing what they must, neither giving up its nature to appease the other. As the night deepened, the animals whispered tales of the day. The snake chose peace, and each retelling added a layer, a memory, an instinct, a choice. They wove a story to make sense of a moment that defied explanation. But deep in the jungle, the snake slithered on, carrying its secret tight. It had chosen peace that day, but it wouldn't tell anyone why. So here's the thing. This isn't just a story about a snake that spared a cub. It's about the choices we make in the face of instinct. You see, snakes are programmed to hunt. It's their nature. But that day, this snake chose something else, something different. It chose peace. Now, you might ask, why would a snake do that? Well, the story doesn't give us an answer. And maybe that's the point. Sometimes things happen, and we just don't understand why. But here's what we do know. The snake didn't attack because it was hungry. It had just eaten. It didn't attack because it was scared. It had hunted before. So why did it spare the cub? Maybe it was tired. Maybe it was thoughtful. Maybe it just didn't want to kill. The story leaves it open for us to wonder. And that's powerful because it makes us think about our own choices. We all have instincts. Things that drive us to act a certain way because that's how we're built. But sometimes those instincts aren't the best guide. Sometimes they lead us to hurt or harm others, or maybe ourselves. And if a snake can choose to go against its nature, to not hunt when it wants to, then maybe we can too. We can choose kindness over anger, understanding over fear, and peace over violence. Of course, it's not easy. Life is complicated and scary. And sometimes we just react. But this story reminds us that we have a choice. We can pause before we act. We can think about the consequences of our actions. We can decide to be a little kinder, a little gentler, a little more peaceful. Because here's the beautiful thing. When we do that, when we choose peace, we don't lose anything. We don't become weaker or less driven. We simply become more human. We become more understanding, more compassionate, and more wise. And that's a kind of strength worth striving for. If this story stirred something in your soul, if it made you ponder the choices you make, then like and comment, share your thoughts. Let's discuss. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel where stories come alive and the wild whispers secrets. Only the brave hear. Thank you for listening.